Alright guys, so today we are going to be programming a stopwatch. And so a stopwatch will basically measure time as it passes and we'll control it with our two little touch sensors here at the bottom, and we'll make it start and then stop. So let me go show you guys a little demo. So you guys look on the left of the simulation. When I press my left touch sensor, it's timing it. And then if I press on the right one, it stops the timer and then it shows us how long that was. And then we can also reset by clicking our left little touch sensor twice. So I click it, it'll show us stopwatch, and then if I click it again, it'll show us our time again, and the time is reset. And I can keep on doing this over and over again. So that's what we're going to be programming today. Alright, so first you guys are going to want to get into a new project. So go to Makecode and then click on New Project. Alright, so because we want our timer to be able to reset itself and to continue on forever, we're going to use our forever block. And again, the forever block is a loop, meaning that it will continue on forever. And this certain loop just goes on forever. It has no condition. So we're going to delete our onStart block. And the onStart block, of course, only runs once, and we want our program to run multiple times. So we're going to keep our forever block here. And the first thing we're going to want to do is set up a variable. And a variable is basically a way to hold the value of a number. So we're going to click on the one that says variable, and we're going to click on where it says make a variable. So we're going to make a variable time, and this variable time is going to hold basically our time, and that's why we're going to name it time. And I'll show you why we're creating a variable. Alright, so if I click on variable, I'm going to take out the second block, the one that says set time to. I'm going to take that one out and put it at the top of our forever block. So the next thing we're going to do is actually show on our LCD screen here at the left that this is indeed a stopwatch program. So if I zoom in, if I click on that, you can see it a little better. So I'm going to go up to brick, and I'm going to go all the way down to where it says show string. So I'm going to take out this show string block, and I'm going to type in something. So we want our program to first say stopwatch. So when you run the program, it's going to first say stopwatch. That's going to tell us that this is a stopwatch program. Because if we don't, it's just going to show us a bunch of different values. It's going to say time, and we won't know what that is. So we're going to type in stopwatch, and I'm also going to type in line 6, just so it's a little bit centered. And that's just a personal choice. I kind of like it to look more centered. And if it loads here on the left of our simulation, it'll show us what we've typed in, which is stopwatch. So we know that the program is running. We're going to add a couple more spaces. Alright, maybe one or two more spaces, but that's basically the idea if you want to get it centered. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to add is a touch sensor block. So it's going to stay stopwatch, but then we have to activate the program so that it can actually do what it's supposed to, which is act as a stopwatch. So right now it's only saying stopwatch. So we're going to go into sensors, and we're going to click on the second block down. So this is going to be a touch sensor block, and it's going to say pause until touch. So what this is going to do is it's going to keep on showing our stopwatch. It's going to keep on showing stopwatch until I press a button. And in this case, it's the first touch sensor, and it's already actually brought it up in the simulation. So it's going to continue to display this until I press this button. And so when I press this button, then the entire program can run. So that's what that's going to do. The next button that we want to do is clear the screen. So once we run the program, we don't want to have this stopwatch written. We want to clear that screen. So we're going to go back into brick, and we're going to go all the way down, and it's going to be the second to last block. So we're going to take out the clear screen block, and we're going to put it below our pause until block. So if I were to run this program right now on the left, if I click on this button, our touch sensor, it's going to make the screen blank, and I'll show you guys. Alright. So it does it momentarily. We can't really see it because this is a forever block, but if I try to maybe hold it down, you might be able to see it just in an instant. And this might be a little bit better to see in a start block, but basically in that split second it's showing our screen to be blank because we pressed this touch sensor. and this will be more apparent as we add more code. So what we want to do next after we've cleared our screen is we want to add another loop. So we're going to add a while loop, and we're going to go back into loop, and we're going to go all the way down until it says while. And so we're going to take out this while, and we're going to put it in there. So the while loop, it works by continuing to do something while something else is true. So it says while something is true, it's going to do something. So if we said maybe while the apples are green, it's going to do something. So as long as the apples are green, it's going to continue to do what's in this block. But the second the apples turn red or another color, it's going to do something else. And I just used apples as an example, but of course we're going to be using numbers and such inside this program. So we're actually going to be using the touch sensor, and that can also be a numeric value. So we're going to go into sensors, and we're going to bring out our little block here. So we're going to take out this, the third block, which says touch sensor 1 is pressed. But this time we're going to add something a little bit special. So we're going to go back into logic. We're going to go all the way down to where it says not. And I'm going to bring out the not block. So before I put these two in, I'm going to explain why I'm going to use a not block. So if we were to put while touch sensor 1 is pressed, do something, it's going to continue to do what's in this block as long as the touch sensor is pressed. So that would mean that we would have to hold the touch sensor for the program to run. What we want to do is we want to do the exact opposite. We want our program to continue to run until we press the button for it to stop. That way we don't have to keep our our finger pressed on the button for the program to continue. So we're going to take that out real quick. I'm going to put in the not block. So that's going to go in first. And then our touch sensor 1 pressed block is going to go in next. This time we actually want it to be a different touch sensor. Touch sensor. So we're going to click on where the number, it says 1, so that's going to be in port 1, but we want it to be a different one. So you can use 2, 3, or 4, but I'm just going to use 3 to kind of give it a little bit of space. Alright, so what this program is doing, to recap, is first it's setting up our variable time, which is going to be equal to 0 when the program starts. And then we're going to show our string, that's going to be stopwatch, and it's going to show on line 6. Then our program is going to pause until touch sensor 1 is pressed. And then when that touch sensor is pressed, it's going to clear the screen. Then our while loop is going to start. And in our while loop, it's going to say while something is not true, which is our touch sensor is pressed. So while our touch sensor is not pressed, it's going to do something. But the second we press this touch sensor, it's going to stop and continue through the rest of the program. So now we have to make the code for the timer inside this while block. And that's going to be what we're going to use our variable for. So to do that, we're going to go into variables. And we're going to click on the second one that says set time to. So that's going to set our variable to a certain thing. It's going to be the same block that we used here at the top. And so what we want to do is we want to set our time to increase every second basically. But we're actually going to use something we're going to use milliseconds actually to have our time a little bit more accurate. Alright. So what we actually should first do is we want to have a pause every time this program runs. So again, this is a while loop, so it's going to run continuously. But in order for us to kind of have an accurate measurement, we want to pause every time. So I'm going to go into, we're going to go into our loops tab, and we're going to go all the way down to where it says pause. So I think it's actually somewhere else. So yep, it's up here at the top. So we're going to click on the pause button, and we're going to put the little pause up here at the top. So this is going to be in the beginning of our program. And we're going to keep it 100 milliseconds. I kind of like that unit. So this program is going to keep on running while our touch sensor is not pressed. And every time it's going to pause 100 milliseconds. So knowing that unit of time, we can make a little bit of an equation for our timer to increase by 100 milliseconds every time. So that way we're actually measuring that unit of time, so 100 milliseconds. So we're going to go into our math block. And we're going to go and click on the first block that has a little plus. And that's going to go inside our set time to block. Next, we're going to go into our variable block again, and we want our time variable. So we're going to click on the first one and put it into our first little slot for the addition block. Now we're going to type in 0.1, which is 100 milliseconds, and there's 1,000 milliseconds into 1 second, so that's why I have this little 0.1. So every time, this is adding 0.1 seconds to our time to make our time really, really accurate. This might be a little bit difficult to understand, but it's basically just adding time every time this runs. And we set it, of course, to continue this program 100 milliseconds. So at the beginning of this program, it's going to pause for 100 milliseconds, then add 100 milliseconds to the time. That way we're kind of measuring time accurately. All right, next we're going to want to clear our screen. So I'm going to go up to brick, and I'm going to click on the one that says clear screen all the way down. That's going to go after our set time to block. That's going to clear our screen. That way we can display something else. And so what we're going to display is we're going to actually show this time on the screen. So right here we just actually set the variable time, but we haven't actually put it on the screen. So we're going to go up to brick, and we're going to go all the way down to where it says show value, and we're going to take out that block and put it after our clear screen block. And where it says show value, we're going to write time because that's what we want to show. And to show time, we actually have to bring out the time variable. So I'm going to go back into variables, and I'm going to click on the first one that says time. That's going to go into our second slot. And again, I'm going to kind of center mine. So I'm just going to type in line 6, and I'm going to add a couple of different spaces here before our time. All right. All right, so let's test this program first. So on the left here, our program loaded, it says stopwatch. I'm going to press the little button, our touch sensor button, and let's see what happens. So what it should do is it should clear the screen, and it should start our little program here that will be our timer, and it should display our timer on the screen. So I'm going to press on it. So yes, it's working. So it's showing our time in seconds, and it's counting up, and if you guys look carefully, it's doing it in increments of a millisecond, 100 milliseconds, sorry. And we can see here that that's what we set it to. So we paused for 100 milliseconds and we added that to our time. So it's doing that. Let's see what happens when we press our second touch sensor. So when we press it, it goes back to the original program. So when we press it, there's nothing after here. So it's going to continue the loop. Since this is a forever loop, it's going to continue, and it's going to go back to the top of our program. And so it'll just continue running that if I press this again. Then when I press it, it's going to stop. So what I think we should do is I think we should add something here at the bottom of our program to actually show the time that we measured. Because right now, if I press this, it's going to run. And then when I press my second button, it's just going to take me back to stopwatch. But it's not going to actually tell me how much time that was. So we want to display our time first. So I'm going to go up to brick, and I'm going to clear the screen again. So I'm going to go all the way down and press clear screen. That's going to go outside of our while loop. Next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to use our show value block. So go back into brick and all the way down where it says show value. So I'm going to take that one out. It's going to go after our clear screen block. So the value that we want to show is, of course, the time again. So I'm going to type in time. I'm going to add a couple spaces in front so it's kind of centered. I'm going to make it line 6 so it's in the middle of the screen. So to show the time, we actually have to bring the variable in. So go to variables and take out the first variable that says time, and that's going to go in our second little slot. All right, so now it's going to show the time after our timer has stopped. But after it shows the time, it's going to show it for a split second, and then it's going to go back to the top of our program. So we have to add another little pause block until something happens. So I'm going to go back into sensors, and now I'm going to go all the way to where it says touch sensor. So the second block, we're going to use the second block. So the one that says pause until pressed. So I'm going to take that out, and that's going to go here. All right, so now what this program is saying is we're going to set our time to 0. The variable time is going to be 0. And then we're going to show the string stopwatch to tell us that this program is a stopwatch. And I actually think I should take away that space between stop and watch. Stopwatch, there we go. And so it's going to show it on line 6. It's going to pause our program until something is pressed, which is our touch sensor 1. So when this first touch sensor is pressed, the program will clear the screen, and then it'll start our loop. So the loop will say while our touch sensor 3 is not pressed, meaning that this won't be pressed, it's going to continue and do what's in this program, which is going to pause first for 100 milliseconds, and that's going to add that amount of time that it paused to our variable time, and then it's going to clear the screen, and then it's going to show that value on our screen. So it shows that the seconds is counting up, it's going up. All right, and so once we press our touch sensor 3 that's plugged into port 3, the program is going to stop. Not the program is not going to stop, but the loop will stop, and then it'll continue the program. So then after the loop stops, it's going to clear the screen, and then it's going to show the value of the amount of time that it measured. After that, it's going to wait until we press the touch sensor 1 again, and then after we press the touch sensor 1 again, it'll go back to the top of the program and continue and play this whole thing again. All right, so it seems a little bit complex, but I think we can manage. I hope you guys were able to get through that. So I'm gonna click on the first button and let's test to see if this works. So I'm gonna click on it. All right, it's measuring our time. It looks like it's working. 3.4 seconds, and then we're gonna stop. All right, so it stopped, and then it showed our value again. And so it's not gonna continue until we press this button twice. And I'm going to click on it once, and then it's going to say stopwatch again, and now we know we're at the top of our program, and then I'm going to press it again, and then it works again. And I can continue to do this infinitely because it's in a forever block, and we can continue to pause, stop the program, and then do it again, and then stop, and then do it again. We can continue to do that forever. And this is how you make a stopwatch. Again, we should probably title our program so we know what it is. So on the bottom left here, I'm going to type in stopwatch. And that's how you make a stopwatch.